to episode 1188 of the Multifamily Collective. Today I wanted to talk about the Metaverse, and I'm going to start by saying I have a very loose understanding of the Metaverse. I liken it to SimCity, something that was developed a long time ago. I remember the early innings of SimCity. It was like you had to go to the store and buy a piece of software and come home and download it onto your computer, and then you ran it and you were able to play the game, and it was super fun. I lost so many hours of my life playing that game, but so I liken the Metaverse to that. And if you're becoming a Metaverse developer, you're either creating the platform in which the players are going to come in and buy and sell pieces of real estate and develop and create things, and it's going to look like the real world now, and you can actually buy real world physical assets and you can sort of trade them on the market and so on and so forth. And so like Earth2.io is a version of this, and there are, who knows, every day there seems to be another metaverse popping up. And so I got really curious about this, and I want to talk to people who are much smarter than me as it relates to this kind of technology. And so I did reach out to someone, and I will leave them unnamed, but I just wanted to get a sense of their take about the Metaverse. And some of the things that they had indicated to me is interesting in the sense that as you're creating, if you're a very talented engineer and you're creating a Metaverse, you've got to think through the different incentives there are as it relates to selling the real estate or the plots in that particular metaverse, or that piece of software, or that game called Earth2.io versus SimCity, or a million others. You got to think about the incentive structures, or at least as I understood this, the incentive structures to actually sell those plots off in the early innings for what would be considered deeply discounted rates or prices, and what that means for later stage development. If you were truly talented, you truly thought you could rip that off, or not rip it off, but create it, you probably would not sell the real estate in the early innings. You would rather get your infrastructure financed by venture capital. You build the whole thing out, and then later on, if you were able to create a marketplace out of it, your real estate is actually worth a lot more money late stage than it is early stage. So you're sort of trying to build something. If you're selling stuff in the early innings, you're trying to build based off of the user base that may or may not be there in later stages. And there are sort of these interoperability things. And so if someone comes along like a Facebook, or at least this is where I'm loosely understanding, or not. Someone comes out there and they create the master metaverse. Is your metaverse now compatible with that master metaverse, where people are just going to show up in droves because it's more of a brand name, or it's a more interesting metaverse than the one that you might get involved in as a consumer here in the early innings? It's all super interesting to me as it relates to real estate, because your multifamily buildings are being captured in these metaverses, and there could be you could feel inspired or motivated to go out and actually purchase your current multifamily buildings, right? Or the various plots that your multifamily building sits on. And I just went in today to one of these metaverses, and I clicked on all the plots that would be necessary to buy the real estate for one of our buildings, a high-rise in Midtown, and it was like almost $300. And then I went to one of our garden style communities that spreads out over a lot of acres, and that particular plot or plots, right, accumulated with several thousand of dollars, because it was spread out over a lot of land. So, and how do you think about that? There are all kinds of things that you need to think about, but there's no real punchline to this video except that I want a date stamp. It's March 30th, 2022. I do believe this is going to become a conversation. I say that because I read an article recently by someone who had been at a conference and asked that question, and the presenter made the statement that it is something that is going to be germane in the next 18 to 24 months, or 12 to 18 months, and we're all going to have to start thinking about that. Multifamily owners and operators, and start thinking about the metaverse, and how are we going to participate in those metaverses, and are we going to participate in the right ones? In the early innings, it's the wild, wild west, and it's a lot of speculation. But if you make a bet, you make the right bet, that could be super profitable. If you make the wrong bet, you've lost a lot of money, and it's an interesting. I think it's interesting. I think it is something that is going to be real, but to what extent, and how do you participate with, and while protecting your downside in what is really the wild, wild west right now. So anyway, if you're a metaverse expert and somebody that has a real opinion and or some real facts, please share them here. I'm deeply interested in this topic, and I do think that it will become a piece of our conversation in the coming 18 to 24 months, 36 months. I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part as well, but I'm assuming at some point here real soon we'll be talking about the metaverse and multifamily and marketing and all kinds of things like that. So hit me up. I'd love to hear from you.